Hi, welcome to my video on Introduction to Absolute Value. The absolute value is done in my earlier unit on fundamentals of math, but now we'll go into more extensive explaining of absolute value function. Absolute value. The symbol for absolute value is two strokes like parallel lines, but they're kept apart. On a number line, the absolute value of a number is the distance from the origin, or distance from zero, you could say the origin, which is always positive, is never, always positive, is never negative, it's always positive. The distance is positive, is the distance from the origin or distance from zero. Examples, the absolute value of 3. Notice the stroke. The absolute value of 3 is 3 because there's 0. So this distance here, 3 is right here. So the distance is 3 units. The absolute value of negative 2 is 2. From 0 to negative 2 is right there. So there is 2. So that's 2 units. Practice. Pause the video if you wish and work out these answers. Find each. The absolute value of 4 is 4. The absolute value of negative 6 is 6. Absolute value of 7, 7. Absolute value of negative 9 is 9. And this is 2 times the absolute value. So it's 2 times the absolute value of negative 8 is 8. And 2 times 8 is 16. Notice we have a lot of strokes, but notice that these two here are between the plus signs, so we can't do that. So we have to do this pair and this pair. So the absolute value of negative 2 is 2, plus the absolute value of negative 3 is 3, and 3 plus 2 is 5. That's explaining it from the distance from the 0 on the number line. But absolute value can also be defined by this definition. The absolute value of x is equal to x if x is greater than or equal to 0. Or the absolute value of x is the negative of x if x is less than 0. So this is the official definition. Notice that x's, we'll explain it using these 4 here. The absolute value of 6 is 6 because 6 is greater than 0. The absolute value of a negative 2 is the negative of a negative 2, which is 2, because negative 2 is less than 0, so we do a negative of that number. So the negative of a negative makes it positive. The absolute value of 10 is 10, because 10 is greater than 0, we just take the value. And the absolute value of negative 7 is the negative of a negative 7, which is 7, because negative 7 fits right here. Negative 7 is less than 0, so we do the negative of that. So notice we still get the absolute value is always a positive number, but when it's negative, we do the negative of that. And I'm going to use this in my later videos on absolute value. You're going to see a little trick that I do, and it works very well. More examples. Pause the video if you wish. The absolute value of 3 is 3. The absolute value of negative 5 is the negative of negative 5, which is 5. So if you just wrote down the absolute value of negative 5 is 5, then what you're really doing is changing this sign to a positive. Practice. Find each. The absolute value of 14 is 14. The absolute value of negative 1 is the negative of a negative 1, which is 1. The absolute value of 20 is 20. The absolute value of negative 4 is the negative of negative 4, 4. So if you never put this down, you're okay. If you said the absolute value of negative 4 is 4, great. But what you're really doing is taking the opposite of this sign. The absolute value of 0 is 0. The absolute value of negative 13 is the negative of a negative 13, which is 13. The absolute value of negative 12 is the negative of a negative 12, which is 12. Again, if you never wrote down the negative of a negative 12 and you just did 12, perfect. And notice we have a subtraction sign with 2 bars. We can't do this because there's no number there, so we have to work this one first. The absolute value of negative 3 is 3. Subtract. The absolute value of negative 9 is 9. And 3 subtract 9 is negative 6. And when we work this out, we do PEMDAS, P-E-M-D-A-S, PEMDAS. And we can't do this one, so we got to do these two and these two. Notice we can't do these two, so we got to do this one, and then this one, and then this one. We can't work out the absolute value of these two because there's no number. We can't do these two because there's no number. So this is a multiplication and division. So let's do the absolute values first. The absolute value of a negative 3 is a 3, plus the absolute value of negative 15 is 15, divided by the absolute value of 5 is 5. PEMDAS, we have to multiply and divide from left to right. Multiplication, division as we go left to right. Negative 21 plus 3. We multiply and divide. Now we're going to add. So that's negative 18. Negative 21 add 3, negative 18. Number 10, the absolute value of negative 18 is 18. And we got a negative. So we do the absolute value first, negative. So the absolute value of negative 6 is 6. Now we have 18 divided by negative 6 is negative 3. And number 11, we have the exponent to do first, so let's leave this absolute value alone. So the negative exponent takes the fraction and reverses it, so that's 6 over 1 or 6. So we have the exponent gone by PEMDAS. The brackets, now the absolute value of negative a half is 1/2, divided by, we're dividing, so we're going to multiply by the reciprocal, which is 1 over 6. So 1 times 1 is 1, and 2 times 6 is 12. So I did the power first to get the reciprocal, which is 6 over 1. Because you're dividing, you multiply by the reciprocal, which is 1 over 6, and the answer is 1/12. Okay, that's an introduction to the absolute value, stressing the idea of the definition. And remind you, just go back again, the definition I'm going to use later on is the absolute value of x is equal to x if x is greater than or equal to 0, or is equal to negative x if x is less than 0. I will use that in my future videos, but you'll see how it's going to happen. If you like my video, click the like button, subscribe button, notification bell. Visit my math website, www.mathfullyexplained.com, to find more information about me, my videos, and the content. That's the content on my YouTube channel called Math Fully Explained. Thank you for viewing my video. Bye-bye.